Hello and welcome to Advisory 5 webinar series. My name is Igor Gorlatov, and today I'll be doing a webinar on the topic of how to join a HealthTech Advisory board. It's a webinar for advisors. So in this webinar, we'll talk about the following items. First of all, what is an advisory board? What's the difference between advisory boards and governing boards? Why might you want to become an advisor, and what are the qualifications that are typically needed, specifically in the health tech space? Then the question is, where do I find startups? How do I negotiate compensation and my commitment? And after we cover those general topics, we'll talk specifically about my company, Advisory 5, and what does it look like if you decide to join as an advisor with us. So again, what are the requirements? Will I get paid? What are the expectations and commitment? What does the onboarding process look like? Types of startups you'll be working with, and what are the opportunities and the value? After that, I'll have my contact so you can reach out and ask follow-up questions if you have any. So let's start by reviewing advisory board versus governing board. So as you can see on this slide, the purposes and roles are a little bit different. Where a governing board has more of legal responsibilities for the company, and they essentially hire or fire the CEO. The advisory board is something more informal. It doesn't have any binding decisions that it can make, and its main goal is to support the founder team on their journey. Then in terms of composition, you can see that an advisory board has experts and professionals who serve part-time, often on a voluntary basis. A governing board usually has some investors, as well as other stakeholders, like independent directors, and there are more requirements with regard to governing board. So again, members do not have legal or financial responsibilities with an advisory board and have financial obligations, fiduciary duties, and can be held liable if it's a governing board. So this is the distinction, and today we are talking about advisory boards, not governing boards. So why would you want to become an advisor to health tech startups in principle? So there are 5 reasons that I came up with. Firstly, it's an ability to influence innovation. So you don't have to be a startup founder to have an impact. And what's more fun here is that you can work with a number of startups as an advisor and influence innovation at a much larger scale. It's also a great place to build a strong network. Why? Like networking events or communities where the communication is very informal do not allow for that relationship building. Whereas if you meet the same group of people consistently every month and you work on real challenges, helping the startup founders succeed, you build very strong ties. And this can be invaluable for new opportunities and for career advancement. It also helps you expand your personal brand if you become an advisor. It signifies your thought leadership and expertise in the health tech domain if you're advising one of the health tech startups. It's also a very fulfilling endeavor to be an advisor. It's fun, and you help the society in a major way. Finally, it's a great way to learn from real-world examples, from real-world experts, both the entrepreneur who is trying things and innovating, and also from other advisors who bring their expertise to this session that you are having. The qualifications that are typically needed for an advisor: industry expertise. You need to understand the health tech space, trends, challenges, opportunities, as well as business models. Professional experience in the industry, be it on the clinical side, payer side, or wider side. Specific technical skills can also be helpful, like software development, for example. A very critical thing is your reputation and credibility. So it's essential to have the right type of reputation to be called or considered for advisory roles for startups, because for them, it's also an opportunity to highlight their board and they want to have reputable people on it. Commitment and availability. Even if you match all other requirements, but you're not available, you're not in control of your schedule, joining an advisory board might not be the right thing to do at this time. Finally, founder first focus. So even though there are some benefits for advisors and sometimes monetary benefits, it's important to prioritize the needs of the entrepreneur, their goals. Then everyone is aligned on the team and this advisory engagement will be successful. Where do we look for startups? There are plenty of places you can see on the screen. So it can be incubators and accelerators. This is probably the easiest. Then peer referrals. Again, if you've already participated actively in the community, there will be people who have heard of you, know you, and if you let them know that you're looking for those types of engagements, they can make the introductions. If not, then you can start participating in the community, joining mentorship programs, contributing both online and during in-person events. Then there are some other things you could do, such as thought leadership, using publications, recording videos, reaching out to startups you would like to work with directly, and leveraging advisory board platforms like Advisory5, who take care of certain elements to streamline the whole experience and match you with startups right away. So in terms of compensation and commitment, there are a couple of decisions to make. The first decision, do you want to be compensated in equity and or cash? And there are advisors for whom this is a mandatory criteria. There are others who are open to non-monetary benefits. Usually, if you are in great demand, of course, it makes sense to request cash and equity compensation, or if this is something that you can wait for the engagement or people are willing to give you whatever you ask. But for many people who would be great advisors, this becomes a bit of a barrier. And so it might be wise to consider, at least initially, non-monetary benefits. So this approach allows you to start faster, expands the type of startups you can work with, not only those that can pay, and you get the same benefits that we talked about from being an advisor for a startup. Regardless of the compensation, it's critical to be clear on what are the expectations from you, what's your role, how frequently you will have to meet, and what other expectations the founder might have. Maybe want to talk to you on the phone every day, then this is definitely not sustainable. Or they want to be their salesperson and be on calls all the time. Again, ensuring that you talk through those things. Ideally, have your lawyer review those things and have everything in a documented format is important so that this relationship starts on the right foot. So after talking through how it works in principle, I wanted to talk specifically how it works with Advisory5, what are the requirements, payments, benefits, expectations, onboarding types of startups we work with, and the next steps for you as an advisor in case you are interested in participating. So in terms of requirements for advisors with Advisory5, they are listed on the screen. As you can see, it's really important to have industry expertise and network connections. This is something that most startups need, regardless of your role. It's possible to make exceptions, but usually those are essential requirements. In terms of everything else, given that each advisory board is made up of a number of people, it's important to have those skills present on each board, but there can be different people that bring those skills. So regulatory knowledge, funding experience, and business development are usually in high demand by startups, but also what's helpful is to have experience in startup or entrepreneurship. Maybe you build your own successful startup. This is awesome. Experience with mentorship and leading teams is great. And then other things that would be great to have if you have clinical experience or product development experience, some technical skills that you bring to the table are also awesome. Will I get paid? So with Advisory5, advisors serve in volunteer capacity. You are not getting paid in cash or equity directly. And you're also paying a small membership fee of $12 to be part of our unique community. So if you're not getting paid, why would you want to get involved? And my answer is that you get the same benefits as you get from being a HealthTech advisor to startups, which is influence innovation, build stronger network, expand personal brand, achieve personal fulfillment, and gain real-world insights. But it's also a way to do the engagement very quickly. Like there are platforms out there where you have to sign up, register, and wait or market yourself to startups. And it takes a while and not everybody gets selected. What we do with Advisory 5, we essentially, once you're in, we pair you up with startups almost immediately because you get to choose startups that you'll be working with, and startups get to approve you. So these connections are super tailored. And we also emphasize collaboration with other advisors. It's not just on those calls or advisory board sessions that you'll have with each startup that you're working with. We also have a monthly meeting where all advisors work together, join together, and we figure out how to help all startups in the ecosystem to be more successful. And it's an opportunity to unlock paid opportunities both with startups and advisors. So you may have to step down from an advisory role within Advisory 5 and become a paid advisor or paid consultant at some point going forward. So what are the expectations? I started talking about them a little bit. So you have to commit to the program for 12 months. And the commitment means that if you agreed to meet at a certain point, you come. Like 90% of sessions that you agreed to attending, you should be able to make to them. So you need to be really in control of your schedule. Of course, unpredictable circumstances happen, but its attendance is essential. And then attending 2/3 of monthly advisor meetings on the third Thursdays. We meet from 8 to 9 on Zoom. And this is where the whole community comes together and we figure out the next steps for the community, review applicants to the program, decide what help can be provided to startups already in the program. Attending those is a great way to build those networks with fellow advisors. And then the last piece is to be available between sessions so that startups can reach to you by email. Here, there is no direct expectation, but at least that you can be available is important. And the level of availability can be determined by you and discussed with your startup and team. Now let's talk about the onboarding process. Again, it's pretty straightforward. I've identified 8 steps. So step 1 is to schedule a 15-minute conversation where you can ask follow-up questions, decide if this is something you want to pursue, and if you match the requirements that we've got. Then you fill out the application. I'll share with you the link. Then there is a more formal interview and approval, where we kind of dig deeper and review your commitment, your background, and if this is something that you really want to be involved in. Once we decide that it's time to move on, do you agree? You review the paperwork that we've got, all those legal requirements and blanket NDAs. You pay the membership due, which is $12 a month. Attend the onboarding meeting for new advisors. So all advisors go through a bit of a training so that you know exactly how the processes work, what to expect from the first meeting, what are the common challenges in being in this advisory environment. So you can learn those things even before starting. Then we'll share with you the list of ventures that are available. And then you make the choice based on your expertise and interest. You choose ventures you'd like to work with, or you prioritize ventures you'd like to work with. Then ventures or founders of those ventures get to approve you. And then you're all set and you get the calendar invite for your first advisory board session. So this is the process in a nutshell. The types of startups, everything health tech related, digital health, medtech, biotech, wellness. So we're pretty broad in that space. Typically, those are earlier stage startups, pre-seed and seed. We do have a startup right now that got 400K grant, but most startups are a little bit earlier stage. So the needs of the startups are pilots, product market fit, like figuring out opportunities for like providers or potential clients to try and validate that the product is serving their needs. Funding, raising funds or getting access to grant funding, building the team, hiring first people, and scaling operations. The program is designed to be worldwide. So as long as you're able to join the calls in Eastern time during business work hours, you can be anywhere and the startups can be anywhere. So this is it with this webinar. If you have questions, please reach out to Igor at advisory5.com. You can also check out our website, advisory5.com. And on the website, you can book a 15-minute consultation with me so that we can continue the discussion. Thank you so much for joining us and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.